Welcome back to the Strength and Speed Podcast. I'm your host, Strength and Speed owner and Conquer the Gauntlet Pro, Evan Preparis. Joining me on the podcast, I have two other Conquer the Gauntlet pros, and they're my two favorite Masters athletes, Lisa Nondorf. Lisa, say hi.
Hey, guys.
And Doug Snyder. Doug, say hi.
Hello, everyone.
Cool. So we're going to be talking about Conquer the Gauntlet on this episode, but before we get into that, quick word from our sponsor. So this episode is brought to you by Inside Tracker. Inside Tracker is the company that tests your blood and gives you feedback regarding what you need to change in your diet and training. Now, Lisa and Doug both had their Inside Tracker results done earlier this year, so we're going to be going over some of that, how they've changed their training and how they've adjusted. Doug also got the additional option for a DNA test, so we'll also be kind of going over some of that stuff and what he learned from that. All right, let's jump into the episode.
That's only because we had to make sure he's human. That's all. We had to make sure of that. But, you know.
Yeah, if you don't know Doug, Doug, how old are you? Is it 58?
49.
49. I said 59. I knew you were old. I knew you were older than, like, significantly older than the 40-year-old Masters cutoff, but, like, I couldn't remember the number. I knew it was a high end of a decade, but yeah, you look significantly.
That's awesome.
I thought you were like 41 the first time I met you.
Oh, yeah. Thank goodness.
Yeah, but he'll be 50 this year. So right now, the age of turning 50 has kind of been, like, Spartan ruined it because he's been having to run in the 50-year-old age category all year. So
okay.
So he, like, technically is 49 in some races and 50 in others.
Right,
so.
And there's a couple of strong runners in the 50-plus group in Spartan that I wasn't real thrilled to get pushed with this year.
When you don't want to be in the 50-year-old age category because they're fast.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about Inside Tracker. We're going to be talking about Conquer the Gauntlet, their first two races of the season, which was Dallas and Oklahoma City. And we're also going to be talking about Lisa's injury. So if you haven't been paying attention, Lisa has not been racing this year, at least not yet. It's because she was injured. So Lisa, kind of take us through that.
It's been a while. I've been injured for 6 months. It started with, I was at an engine comp, and I think I've been preaching that you just listen to yourself. That's the one thing that I've taken away from this is when you think that things aren't run the way they should be, maybe you should walk away. So I didn't warm up as well as I should have. And I went for a long reach, and I knew I did something to my arm, but I wasn't sure what, because it wasn't a traditional, what they consider a bicep tear, where it slingshots up your arm. Mine just tore, and it kind of stayed stationary. And they said it was because they don't know exactly why. And so I didn't actually know how bad the injury was immediately. And it wasn't until it was diagnosed by a trainer, physical therapist, and he diagnosed it as a torn long bicep tendon. And so when I talked to some other people, they're like, oh, you can do without your long tendon. It's kind of there for, there's two tendons that attach in the shoulder. And I'm like, wait, it's not my shoulder, it's my elbow. And so that's when it was finally diagnosed that it was a distal tendon. It's the only attachment that the bicep has to down by the elbow. So that one is a mandated surgery. And I'm not a big fan of surgery. So it's been kind of a bumpy ride. So I did have surgery to have it repaired. When my surgeon went in, he realized it was worse than he expected. The tendon is frayed, so I'll have to have a donor tendon. But he didn't want to do the surgery at that point. So he just sewed me back up and said, we're going to try PT. So I tried PT for 6 weeks. In the meanwhile, my shoulder has been taking kind of some impacts from it. So it caused torn rotator cuff, which was going to require surgery as well. So it kind of has compiled into a lot of things. And then I finally just decided to get a second opinion as far as surgeons go. And so now I have a new surgeon in New Orleans. Most likely the surgery will happen, but they want to wait until I move to the Mississippi area, I think, because he thinks I'm going to have to be babysat to not do things. So I think he wants me closer to Doug so that Doug can tell me stop doing stuff. So that's kind of where it's at. I'm kind of in hold for a while. It's been very frustrating, but finding new ways to do things. So that's kind of where my year's taken me.
Yeah, I remember when you posted you were going to get surgery, and it was like, all right, well, now the recovery process is going to start. And then when you posted again, I think it might have all been in the private group that you woke up and essentially, like, we didn't do anything, we just cut you open and sewed you back up. It was like heartbreaking. Just how have you been dealing with?
Yeah, that was rough.
I think OCR is such a big part of our lives and a lot of the listeners' lives. Like, how have you been dealing with essentially not being able to train or race?
I have super highs and lows. I'll have moments of like everything's going to be okay. And then I definitely have moments where I kind of shut down and don't really talk to anybody about it, and just go through my day. Most of the lows, I hate to say it's been better. I stopped my job as a personal trainer, just because with PT every morning I was driving. My surgeon here in Wisconsin was a 2-hour drive away. So my PT was a 2-hour drive every day. So I had to go to PT 2 times a week. And it just got to be too much working full time, trying to do some training that I could do 2 days a week, driving 4 hours plus PT appointments. And it got overwhelming. So I decided to stop my personal training job. And I hate to say that since I've not been in the gym, it's been easier because there is things that I can do. But walking into the gym and seeing everything that I can't do was a daily reminder of being injured. Now that I'm focusing more on just running, and then I've been freed up to be able to rock climb as long as I don't hang overhead because of my rotator cuff. I can do things like that. So that's made it a lot easier for me as well. I think Doug probably has seen more of the impact. And yeah, I think the hardest part was the waking up and you're still kind of in medication mode and them just telling you no surgery occurred. And I thought I was going to be on the road to recovery as well. And, being in the holding pen for as long as I've been, it's been challenging, but I have a lot of supportive people with me. So that's made it better.
Gotcha. Well, sucks to hear. And, that's obviously a rough story, but your life was a lot more, but then before OCR, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more great stuff after. And same with even all of our listeners, right? The sport's only been around a couple of years, so obviously we have all have a lot of good memories here. But yeah, life's bigger than OCR, so
it is. And I know, I know that even though 2019 is done, right now I'm looking towards how can I better myself for 2020? And right now it's my running. So I've been doing a lot of hill training and a lot of running, that kind of thing. And knowing that this isn't the end, I'll be back in 2020. And I feel like I'm going to actually be back stronger. So that's exciting to me.
That is exciting. So yeah, like we were saying, life is not about OCR, but this podcast is about OCR. So we're going to jump back into it.
Yes.
Starting off with Conquer the Gauntlet Dallas. Now, I couldn't go to Conquer the Gauntlet Dallas. I can't even remember why. Oh, I remember why. That's right. My wife was about to give birth to a baby.
You were having a baby.
That's what was going on.
Yes.
Yeah. I knew there was something important that happened that weekend. That's why I couldn't make it.
Little bit of importance. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so I canceled my plans last minute to go down there because the baby was coming a little bit early. But anyway, I know both of you guys went down there. How did that go? Maybe Doug start us off.
It went really well. It was super hot and dry, just like last year. The course kind of followed a similar path as last year. One thing I was really looking forward to, the new obstacle, the Lion's Den, and it had a lot of rain in the couple days before the race, and it got so full of water it broke some of the main bracings, so they decided not to use it in the race. So I did kind of sneak in there behind a volunteer's back and look at it after the race and kind of decoded it in my mind, but I was hoping it would be in the race. So,
and go ahead and describe what that is for people.
Oh, sure. It's a huge obstacle, and it's pretty much 3 different parts. You enter it through a kind of a curtain that you have to get down on your hands and knees and crawl into it. There's a black drainage pipe type culvert that's at a 45-degree angle up, and there's a little piece of rope hanging in it. You have to shimmy yourself into it off the ground and then pull yourself up through it using the piece of rope. And then you come out on a platform, and then there's 4 big rotating drums that are over water that you have to run or crawl or however you can get across them without them rotating and throwing you into the water. And that definitely had a feel from Ninja Warrior type things. And if you make it across that, then there's a landing platform and then a little A-frame wall that you go over and finish the obstacle.
Yeah, and if people are confused what it looks like, I just posted a video. By the time this comes out, it'll be probably a week or 2 ago, on my Instagram, ultra-ocr man, of me running across it. And then I know Jay Flores also did a technique video with Lisa. So, Lisa, what were your thoughts on the new obstacle?
Was that a technique or a Friday video?
That was a Friday video. I love the new obstacle. Don't stop. When they tell you it doesn't spin, they're completely lying to you. It spins, and you're going to fall in.
So I eventually got to do the obstacle.
Yeah, it was fabulous.
Yeah, I got to do the obstacle in Oklahoma City, and the first funny thing is when I go in, those 45-degree tunnels, someone didn't drop the rope back down in front of me.
Yes.
I'm trying to get up it with rope, and I'm just sliding backwards, and I'm like, this is impossible. I was like, how am I ever going to get up this? I'm like.
You know what it is? That would be, for people to understand, it's like teeter tuber without teetering. It's just tuber, like going up. Like, and that's what it is.
I think it's a steeper angle too. Because I mean, you can get up teeter tuber, but like this was steep. Like I couldn't go anywhere. And then eventually I was like, oh, there's a rope. So I switched lanes and went up the rope. Yeah. And I was surprised to the barrels. I was picturing something like Wipeout where they'd be like really squishy, but they're pretty hard with like a light cushion on top. So.
Right.
Yes.
I thought it was a lot of fun.
And the last thing, if you watch my video, it's fun falling too. I mean, you can try it. Everyone should.
Brent,
just to make me feel better.
Lisa fell in the water on the Fail Friday video. If you want to go back and watch that on the CTG Facebook page.
I didn't make it past the first spinning barrel. Let's just say that.
I mean, I think the important.
But I think Jay's last comment was they don't even spin. Yeah.
I think the important thing, the comment there is, right, you got to be light on your feet. I step just on like either the center or just past the center. So when I step back, it pushes it. And then just kind of skip across it. As I was going through Continuum doing multiple laps in Oklahoma City, you get up there and there's people just staring at it. And it's like, that is not going to get easier the longer you stare at it. You just got to.
Right.
It's just
Correct.
It's just like a lot of tough fear-based obstacles. Yeah, you just got to go. And speaking of like fear-based obstacles, I drove down with Jacob Stone, one of the KCOCR and Strength and Speed guys, and he was commenting how on the uphill tunnel crawl, he's like, I got a mild case of claustrophobia, and it was starting to kick in that like tight space. Going up.
Yeah, that tunnel is awkwardly small.
Yes.
So bigger people, I don't know, like the 3 of us are pretty small. That tunnel is awkwardly small. So yeah I was like, whoa. Because I remember when we did it, we all 3 came up. It was Jay, Doug, and I. We all came up and we were all like, that was hard. Yeah. Like, you didn't expect that.
That's definitely one thing you know is that you cannot get your knees up under you to crawl up it. Like, you have to just stay full length and slide your body up it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is surprisingly hard multiple laps in the Continuum when your back and forearms are tired.
Yeah, I bet.
I
can't imagine.
I was kind of surprised by that. I was like, why am I so tired? It's just a 45-degree tunnel. So, all right, let's jump back to Dallas. So give me a little bit more about Dallas, and I'm sure people want to know the rig setup and stuff like that.
Sure. The Tarzan rig was a little easier than I expected. It was not over water, and I think that they wanted to make it a little bit easier being the first race of the year, just to give everybody a false sense of security. So it was like an Olympic ring, a small piece of rope, the little T-bar, like atomic grip, and another ring, and then a nunchuck. There might have been one more piece of rope. So that wasn't too difficult.
Not too difficult for you. I'm sure that's harder.
I was just gonna say for Doug.
Any other race. So I mean, the point is, if you're planning on coming to conquer the gauntlet, you should get comfortable doing nunchucks, bombs or grenades, whatever you want to call them, such as the little balls, bungees, ropes, basically non-standard holds. There was, I know in Oklahoma
bowling
City,
pin,
one ring. So I don't think they're using bowling pins for the rig anymore. I know they use them for Smooth Criminal.
Oh no,
that's it.
For Smooth Criminal.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. What else? How else was Dallas? Give me some other details.
They had Smooth Criminal in there, and it was the standard setup. Just run as fast as you can because your momentum helps you all the way through it. It had a little creek section that walked through the creek, which was extremely refreshing in that temperature. The sandbag carry used some of the hills on the motocross track. Definitely a leg burner, but it was a good place to make up time if you had enough power.
I know Lisa was doing some of the live coverage. I was back home at the time watching it, and it was, I would say, it's the deepest field we've ever had at a Conquer the Gauntlet. I mean, Yuri Force was there.
My God.
Yes.
And then second was...
my God. It was insane.
What was second and third again?
Victor.
Oh, yeah. Air Force Ken was second, and Victor Quezada.
Oh, Ken was second, and Victor was third.
Right. And I mean, then
third.
Benny Gifford was there, and Jay Flores, and it was like guys who are normally on the podium or even winning were like down in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th place, which was pretty insane to see.
Yes.
Right.
And I couldn't believe how fast it was. Like, I'm not going to play, just watching, and it was, if you're going to have to sit out a race in video, that was a great race to have to sit out in video. Because it definitely was really neat to see, first of all, to be part of watching at Pegatron. I mean, that was pretty much the deal breaker. Like, guys were coming off of Pegatron that you wouldn't expect to come off. So I know that Yuri had no problem. He went through right away. But then I think everybody else other than Victor fell off of Pegatron at least once.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it was pretty interesting. It was like, whoa, wait, what's going on? So, well, Jay didn't, of course, but,
And I mean, the other big news with Pegatron, which actually occurred at the end of last year but is now kind of in full swing, is the block was removed to the ladies. So how did they do dealing with the just all pegs, no footholds for that center section?
I think that our strong females had no problem, but there were, again, the girls got hung up on Pegatron. I know the field wasn't as deep in Dallas for the girls, so Alex flew through, and she flew through Pegatron without any issues. Amy came through second, but actually did have Pegatron problems. And I don't know if that was just from coming off of a hot run or, what that was. But she had a couple issues. So some of the girls did have some problems and came off as well. So I was surprised to see how many people came off of Pegatron, just standing there watching. Because when you're racing, you don't realize how much of a game changer that one obstacle is. Yeah. And I'm sure there were other obstacles. I know, like for Randy, for example, she sometimes has Smooth Criminal issues. So you don't realize, like, because when you're racing, you're like, what? People got hung up there? What, really? And you don't realize, no, really, everyone kind of does. So, it was pretty interesting to watch that unfold. So,
and that's what I love about Conquer the Gauntlet is there are so many kind of technical and tricky obstacles that it's not over until it's actually over, right? Like the only time I feel comfortable like securing my placement is when there's just torpedo ahead of me, which is their water slide. That's the only time I ever feel comfortable. So
right. Well, and the thing that they do that was really crazy is put the walls of fury right at the end before torpedo. So if you are sprinting somebody, which there were a couple, you're going to have to sprint over, 4 walls or 5 walls, 8-foot walls. And you want to talk about like just destroying your lungs. So, and then you have to climb up and do torpedo and climb out of the water. It's like, okay, seriously? Can we just not sprint to the finish line? Nope. Because there really isn't a sprint to the finish line. It's literally your obstacle sprinting to the finish line.
Yeah, so, that's rough.
Yeah.
And Doug, how did you end up doing?
Yeah.
I got first place masters in that one. And like Lisa was saying, with such a large elite heat, it pushed me down a little farther in overalls, and I think I was 20th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, that's way different than my normal records.
Yeah, I mean that you're usually top 10. Usually like 5 through 10 placement.
6, 6, 8, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. So then a couple weeks later, we went on to Conquer the Gauntlet, Oklahoma City. So the second race of the season for Conquer the Gauntlet. I ended up coming down and doing Continuum, the multi-lap event. The Continuum was, obviously I enjoyed it. That's my thing, multi-lap, right? The things I would say that were surprising was, you can penalty out of Cliffhanger, the monkey bars. You can penalty out of Pegatron. You can penalty out of the rig. And you can penalty out of Stairway to Heaven. The thing that's surprising, though, is you can't penalty out of the other ones, right? So you can't penalty out of the rope climb or the 8-foot walls or the 12-foot walls or Smooth Criminal. And actually, when you've done multiple laps with that many obstacles, those obstacles get really hard. Like, I was concerned going across Smooth Criminal. I almost fell on several laps. Like, my arms were a little bit shaking. Like I talked about earlier with the Lion's Den, crawling up that tube was tiring. And then Belly of the Beast, which is an uphill balance beam into a downward cargo net traverse. Essentially, you're hanging off the bottom. I saw so many athletes just sitting next to it because they kept having like calf and hamstring cramps, and they're just stuck there, right? Because if you skip an obstacle, you have to tell them that by the rules you're supposed to be like, that last lap doesn't count. I didn't do all the obstacles. So, and I know several good athletes had to do that, right? Like I know one of them, one of my friends is an ultra runner. Couldn't get over the 12-foot wall. His legs kept cramping. He was having trouble. So his last lap didn't count. I know Randy made it to Smooth Criminal, which was literally, it was Smooth Criminal and then Torpedo to the end. And Randy's on lap 3, and she can't get past Smooth Criminal. Right? So she had to be like, that last lap doesn't count. I just ran over 4 miles, did every obstacle, and I can't get across Smooth Criminal, so I'm eliminated.
And it doesn't even go.
Yeah, it does not count.
Yeah.
So what I
did, go.
I kind of, obviously I like that. One, because it plays to some of my strengths, but what I really like is that it adds another piece of variety to the OCR sport, right? Like, we have short distance Warrior Dash with easy obstacles. We have Conquer the Gauntlet, 4 miles hard obstacles. We have Spartan with a lot of heavy carries, and burpee options. And then for all ultra OCRs, there's pretty much a penalty for everything. So theoretically, if you're a fast enough runner, you can win pretty much any ultra.
Yes.
Theoretically, right? Like, obviously, you're not going to beat Ryan Atkins just running. Because you still have to do you still have to do like some obstacles, but like this is the only ultra OCR I've seen where people had to stop not because they didn't have the endurance to keep running, but because they couldn't get past an obstacle, which I just think it adds another flavor to this sport.
Right. Oh, I was just going to say it's pretty neat to see because now of running more, I'm starting to get into more endurance stuff and watching people and the different mentality of running a 4 mile course versus almost like an open-ended. You can have a goal mileage, but recognizing that you may hit or you may exceed that goal mileage, and watching the mentality that goes into that is really neat to see too.
Yeah, people were asking me how many laps I planned on doing, and I don't answer that question until after the first lap. Because the course, I mean, the course, there's a lot of factors that affect your time. So I never make a prediction until after the first lap, when I have a baseline to be like, all right, this is my first lap, based off how much I'll slow down or how consistent I'll be able to do this many laps.
Right.
So I ended up doing 5 laps.
Exactly.
I had time for a 6th one, but I was ahead of second place Scott Wierzecki far enough where he wasn't going to catch up, and I was actually planning on running it until, my hands were literally tore off. There was there was blood dripping from them. I was like, yeah, this, part of me says keep running. The smarter part is you should probably stop so you don't damage your hands really bad because you have other races coming. So
you probably were going through trauma of the 48-hour one you did, and your body was like, oh no, you remember that? So it was like, no, you're stopping.
Yeah, I was having flashbacks.
Like, nope.
I was having flashbacks.
Exactly.
And so I went with no gloves, and I felt good for the first 3 laps. I had basically no rips. And then on lap 4, I climb up stairway, and I'm at the top of stairway, and I'm holding on, and I can feel my skin peeling off.
Oh.
And I didn't lose grip strength. I was just holding on, and my skin moved, and it just it ripped, essentially 2 or 3 holes on each hand on one obstacle at one point, and I just fell into the water. I was like, mother. So.
Well, if you're gonna do it, you do it at 100%. Don't do it partial. Don't just get one little baby rip.
Yeah.
You might as well get all the rips at once. Perfect.
So. Yeah, that was Continuum. What did you think of the race, Doug? You ran the elite single lap.
So Oklahoma City went well for me. It was another hot and dry race. Definitely some good elevation to work with there. Some ravines and nasty washed out areas with a bunch of roots sticking out of the trails, which I'd noticed on the course map that they had named an obstacle some weird Latin name, which was place of sorrow or mental torture or something. There was some weird translation, and everybody's like, what is that? Well, it's because the last third of a mile of the course was cutting through these ravines where you just go down, but it was tricky to go down, and then going up, there was no way to run it because you're using your hands to pick your way through roots and these washed out ditches.
Nice.
So it definitely was some torture. And at that point of the race, I was neck and neck with 2 other guys that missed their first pass on the rig, and I saw my gap to pass them, and I knew I had to push through that rough section, even though it was so hard to run. I was glad to see Lions Den made it in that one, and it was functional, and everyone was having a good time on there. People that went slow got a good dunking.
Mm-hmm.
And as Lisa knows how the dunking works. So the race results were really good for me. As far as my metrics go, I'd adjusted a few things in my diet, and I felt like my stamina was still strong even in the 4th mile. So I ended up in 2nd Masters and 7th overall.
Gotcha. And we were talking about this a little bit offline before, but who beat you on the Masters?
Oh yeah, Scott Wierzecki.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
His birthday was 2 days before the race. Yeah, go for it.
I was gonna say he's now a baby Masters.
Yeah, it's like the youngest Masters possible. He was fresh out there, and when I finished, I knew who I had passed, and I was jumping up and down I got it, and then an hour later, I went back and looked at results. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Scott actually is 40 now. So
Yeah, his birthday was
mean,
literally like
Scott's an
48
awesome
hours
guy. I mean,
beforehand. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Well, that was a good birthday gift to himself.
so the interesting thing
He
about
got
that,
3 podiums in the same race.
at least, well, no, he didn't. Well, he didn't get elite
Oh
overall.
no, he didn't podium overall.
Oh,
I
that's
did.
gonna be his
Yeah,
next goal. So, it's
yeah.
interesting feat about Scott is
Yes.
he won Conquer the Gauntlet Wichita in 2017, I think it was. So he's won Conquer the Gauntlet.
Okay.
He's won Elite, Conquer the Gauntlet. He's now won Masters, and in Dallas he won Continuum. So he's the first person to do all three. Or I think he's also the first person to do.
All 3.
Yeah, he's the first person to do all three, but he's also the first person to do Masters and Elite, I believe. So interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now, if
Yeah.
he's listening, his new goal needs to be podium in all three in a single
3.
race, because he finished first Masters and then he finished second
Right.
Continuum at this race. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
go for it, Scott. The challenge is out there.
Maybe Iowa. Is he going to be in Iowa? Maybe Iowa.
No, he's not coming to Iowa. Or at least I don't think he is.
Maybe that'll convince him to go to Iowa.
But Oklahoma City was super hot, and I was just sweating a ton, and I barely pissed, like, at all for the 6 hours. I think I pissed once. And I was super dehydrated after, and a lot of the other people I was with were saying the same thing. And, yeah, it was rough. It was rough conditions. So, I know it wasn't as hot as Dallas, but yeah, Scott was like, he's like, I know it wasn't as hot as Dallas. He's like, but this feels worse for some reason. So I don't know if it was the humidity or what. And the thing is, there was a decent amount of shade on the course, but still, I just felt like it was draining. So
Yeah, I do think the humidity was pretty high.
Yeah.
The other kind of interesting thing is I've gotten started, because of Toughest Mudder, they keep running them at night. I've gotten used to cool and cold weather. And it's been a while since it's just been blistering hot for like a normal race. Basically, you got to go back to like Battle Frog days, Battle Frog Extreme, to get to those multi-lap hot races.
Well, one observation, the Tarzan rig was set up almost exactly the same as Dallas. And, it made me kind of ponder, is Conquer the Gauntlet trying to be a little more standardized with their layout like that? Or was it just because it was over dry land and, they didn't want to get too complex with it and risk falls or anything? But I definitely am looking for a challenge. And so I'm hoping they'll put a little more complexity on the rig at the next one.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, to get it really complex, you have to put it over water, right? You have to, if you're going to use a floating board, it has to be over water. You just can't.
Oh, definitely.
For those who are worried about the rig or want it to be harder, if it's over water, that's a good sign for you, or a bad sign for you.
Right.
You fall into there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Iowa will be. I don't know who's going to show up to Iowa. That's going to be that's always a unique one, because it's kind of, I feel like it's more in my neck of the woods up here.
Yeah.
And so I think it's harder for, like the traditional Midwest people to get to. I think that's the one that's further outside, kind of like Dallas is. But I really think Dallas is the easiest to travel to.
Yeah, it's
because flights to Dallas and everything are pretty easy.
Definitely
Whereas
more affordable.
Iowa, like flights to, most people are going to fly into Chicago and then drive across.
And in case people are listening and they're like,
I will be.
Isn't the CTG, aren't you guys the CTG pro team? Shouldn't you know like the backside scoop? As you can tell, we do not know the backside scoop. We show up on Thursday just like everyone else.
No.
We get the course map the same day everyone else gets the course map. It gets published publicly, and we're like, oh.
Correct.
And the mystery obstacles are still a mystery to us until we show up on race day. So no unfair advantage for those who think we have some sort of inside baseball there. Now the Brenna won the
We can't play on it the day before. We can't do anything.
Correct.
Yeah.
Brenna won the continuum for females. I won the continuum for males, with Scott coming in second. And then for the men's podium, we had Ashton coming first, who is now on the Conquer the Gauntlet Pro team. So we're excited to have him, and we'll be getting him on the podcast sometime soon.
Great.
And Doug's excited. Doug's like, oh, good. Someone to push me down another spot.
It's all right. No, Ashton's a really good guy. He's a really, really good guy.
Super nice guy. I mean, if anything, I'll learn some running technique from him.
Yeah. He's fast.
And Randy won.
Well, and people don't realize because he is fast that he's also a ninja.
Yeah.
And trains with, a little bit with Jay. He's very good.
Yeah, he won his age group NORAM this past year, and I think he won his age group OCR World Championship the year before. I gotta double check his stats. But yeah, we'll be getting him on, talking to him a bunch more. Randy won her 11th or something CTG, something obscene. I literally lost track. And also Miranda came in second, which is cool to say because she has a string of fourth place, and then she finally got a podium last year. Miranda Lynn Hubert.
That's awesome.
That's her name. So,
yeah.
I think Cheryl.
Yeah, Randy has enough gauntlets now. She can make her own army. She can start literally making an army.
Yeah, equipping
with gauntlets.
Well, she has enough for everyone in her family to have their own set, and then a spare, which is pretty nice.
And now she's got to back up.
She has to make sure they're giving her alternating left and right gauntlets at every other race.
Yeah, that's true.
You can start putting them on there.
So they fit both hands.
So, yeah. Yeah, there was a Masters female finisher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheryl, right?
Yeah.
Cheryl, was it Cheryl Bergman?
Yep.
Yeah, she looked pretty
awesome.
strong too.
Is she just turned 40 too?
That's excellent yeah, she did. She just turned 40 as well. So, but that's awesome because last year there wasn't any. So
besides you.
So far but I don't know. I'm not I pretend I'm not 40 yet, so it's fine. No, besides me. I was the only one last year to finish. And so it's really cool to have another Masters athlete finishing this year. So that's exciting to me because there's always that concern of, well, I'm out. Oh, Lord, please don't let that podium stay empty all year. Somebody needs to finish this race. And there's a bunch of 40-year-old, there's a bunch of Masters women that have always been that one obstacle. And it's always different obstacles for people. Whether it be Pegatron, some people have smooth criminal problems. So it's always some people, it's just stairway. They can't get stairway. So it's the one obstacle. So you have a bunch of Masters women that are just, once they can get through one specific obstacle, they would make it. But they've always had one obstacle holding them up. So I'm excited to see another Masters women podium. So.
And I know there was a slight adjustment to the prizes now. Doug, can you tell us about the Masters Gauntlet? So if anyone's not tracking, if you win the elite race, you get this sick metal glove, right? Hence the Conquer the Gauntlet, right? But they added a physical prize for the Masters this year. So Doug, take it.
Right.
Well, Doug added a physical prize.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I knew that Masters are looking forward to having representation like that, and having a award to hold up on the podium and not just wave at the crowd. So for Dallas, the award was designed with a walking cane mounted on a plaque, and then it had a leather gauntlet attached to it.
A weathered glove.
Like an old
It's a gauntlet.
Well, it's kind of like the inside of the actual gauntlet. Because the actual gauntlet has a leather lining to it.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Might be well worn.
Well, it looked like a gauntlet to me. I mean, not all gauntlets were meant to be like heavy medieval armor. I mean, some are just for like lightweight summer use.
the summer armor.
So
oh no.
So the gauntlet evolved a little bit when we got to Oklahoma City, and it was actually more of a movie themed gauntlet from Batman.
That is good.
And that one had it had a brass plaque on it that said what race and the year and the category, and that one's actually wearable. It comes off of the base, so you can put it on and like throw your fist up in the air on the podium.
Yeah, that's cool.
So we'll see. We'll see what the next one looks like.
I like physical prizes as like a representation of your hard work. For the Continuum, they have these like really nice wood burned engraved like little plaques. So I think the picture.
Yeah, cool. I saw it. Those are really nice.
Yeah, you can look at pictures of mine or Scott's or Brenna's online, and I don't think the picture really does it justice because it's like 3D. Like it's got layers to it. It's not just the image that's burned into the wood. So
yeah,
it's really sweet.
Yep,
it's a nice touch.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, let's move on from Conquer the Gauntlet and jump into some Inside Tracker. So who wants to go first?
All right. Doug,
Lisa
have at it.
Go first.
I should go first. Well, my results were, they were interesting, and it's helped me a lot. It was weird things like I am a vegetarian, but I'm not vegan. And I do eat eggs. And so it was neat to see, like, I always know that the idea of me being anemic or low in iron is high. So I always take an iron pill. And so when I got my results back and it told me I was anemic, even though I take iron daily, was a little surprising. But then reading through my results a little bit more, it was like, but you have high iron in your blood. It's just not getting into your system. And then realizing, oh, well, you're low in calcium. And then I was extremely low. Welcome to living in Wisconsin through a winter. I was critically low in vitamin D.
Yeah.
And so all that playing into a part with, things that I had been feeling like very difficult, finding energy to go for runs. And I had blamed a lot of it on injury, but now much, much better mindset since I've shifted some of my vitamins that I'm taking and actually now starting to shift some of the way that I'm eating, being a little bit more careful about where I'm getting nutrients from. So it was really cool. And it's been really neat to see my energy level completely just shift, which has been good. And I expect long-term even more.
Cool. Did you do the ultimate package, the one with the 42 biomarkers? Or did you do lower one?
I did.
Okay. Nice.
I did it's 43, I think, or 42, yeah. It was really, like I said, it was really interesting to see how everything kind of relates. So if you're being low in vitamin C helped the rationale to, but you're high in iron, but you're anemic. And I was like, how is that possible? And so finding out that, they all relate, the vitamin C is what helps your body absorb the iron. So there's iron, but it's just not absorbing it. And same thing with the vitamin E or the vitamin D. I had my cholesterol was a little bit off. And for me, that's, being vegetarian, that's really odd. They're like, stop eating red meat. I'm like, well, I don't eat it. Eat more vegetables. And it's that's all I eat. And so then finding out that the vitamin D has an impact.
That's all I'm eating.
Exactly. That's all I eat. But the vitamin D has an impact on your cholesterol.
Gotcha. Interesting.
And so it's kind of how everything, and I never would have done that research on my own at all. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I like how it takes the guesswork out of it, and it's here's what's actually going on in your body. So it's definitely really cool to see physical results.
Right.
So Doug, take us through yours. Did you do the ultimate 42 biomarker one too?
Yes, I did I sure did.
And then you also did the DNA one.
the
So tell us a little bit about that, because I'm not familiar with
right.
that part of their testing, because they didn't have that as an option last year.
Okay, sure. So you have to get your DNA done through a separate company, which I use Ancestry, but I think you can use like 23andMe or something like that. Anyway, then you just download the raw data, which is like this giant ASCII file of just numbers in a text file. And when you upload that to Inside Tracker, then they immediately overlay it into all the biomarker stuff. And basically, it shows you if you have like a genetic predisposition for deficiencies in different things. So what I found, one of the big things was actually the same as what Lisa had with the low iron from my blood testing. And so when I looked at the DNA, it said, well, you have a tendency for having low iron also, but that it also went on to explain that that's correctable with your diet, even if it's a genetic issue. So I was glad to see that. And Inside Tracker also pointed out that people that train hard routinely run low on their iron, it's also the ferritin, the hormone that carries your iron in your blood. So so based on all that, I added an iron supplement, and I've also started eating a little more meat. I was kind of low on my meat intake.
Yeah.
Hanging around with Lisa too much.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well,
it's not even your meat, it's your red meat. He doesn't eat much red meat. Like, he eats a lot of chicken and fish. And so red meat was not, but honestly, that wasn't a big.
Yeah. Well, there's still quite a bit of iron coming through chicken and fish. So it's okay to just add more of that, and I still don't eat that much red meat.
Okay. His excuse now, he has excuses for his sweet tooth. Because now he tells me that it's a genetic predisposition for liking sweets.
Oh yeah, that was a result too. I wasn't going to bring that up.
Oh, sorry. I threw you under the bus.
And an even more interesting coincidence along that line is the one vial of blood that they drew that was supposed to be for my glucose assay. Something went wrong with the testing, and that I didn't have a glucose result. So I can't even talk about my blood sugar. And I have a genetic predisposition for really liking sweets.
Yeah.
But the DNA has a ton more information. There's hundreds and hundreds of different traits in there that you can actually just Google the trait and then see what your own result is. And Inside Tracker only picks up the ones that are related to your diet.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. Sounds like a cool option to add on.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Now,
yeah, definitely. And go ahead.
Yeah, if any of our listeners want to head over, you can head over to insidetracker.com. But when they do the blood test, they do have like package deals. So if you're going to get it done multiple times, which I think is a pretty good idea, because it actually, once you get multiple tests, it'll show your changes and it'll like plot them all on the same graph. Buying the package deal will save you money if you're going to end up doing it multiple times on your own anyway. And you can tell them the CTG Pro Team sent you. We currently don't have a discount code for them, but occasionally, like last year, like at one point during the year, they released a discount code for me, and I shared it on my social media channels. But so not likely to get a discount anytime soon, but you never know. I think the last time it was around probably around Christmas.
It's valuable.
Yeah. So tell them we sent you.
It's super interesting and valuable. Yeah.
And
I tell everybody it's worth it, like 100% worth it.
Cool. All right, we're gonna start wrapping things up. Before we go, since we have 3 people on the podcast, we're gonna tell us one thing about ourselves. Tell the audience one thing about yourself that people would be surprised to know. And,
Doug, you're first.
And
A lot of people would be surprised to know that I have a desk job and I sit still for quite a few hours a day. which is probably why whenever I get a weekend, I want to go do the craziest thing I could find, like an OCR race, because I'm tired of sitting still.
Oh, true.
Right on.
Yours was fast.
That was fast.
I was expecting you to think for a minute. Yeah.
I won.
You did. Let's see. Something people probably don't know. I'm actually have a little bit of a fear of water if I don't know what's underneath me. So like in a race, you know, the mucky water that you can fall into? I actually am extremely afraid to fall into that water. So I will do everything in my power to not fall. And it's not because I want to complete the obstacle. It's because I don't want to fall in the water. It freaks me out. If I don't know how deep the water is or what's in there.
I thought that's how you got good at obstacles.
That is. That's exactly it. It freaks me out to not know. Like if I don't know how deep the water is, or even what's it called? Torpedo. I don't know how deep the water is. So I get freaked out a little. So yeah, there it is. All right, Evan, what's yours?
Well, I'll play off yours. So having to do with water, I'm not a huge fan of prolonged breath holds, like, you know, diving deep into the water. And that comes from, I went through some combat dive training for the military, where basically it's very similar to free diving. So you got to hold your breath and do tasks underwater, and basically until you start running out of oxygen before you come up. Anyway, I've blacked out twice to complete unconsciousness underwater, so there's not a big fan of that.
Whoa.
Yeah. The first one was like a real quick blackout. Like I was actually coming up to the surface, and I basically stopped moving and started sinking, and someone caught me and brought me up. And I wasn't like, I came up, I was like, did I black out?
Wow.
Like, yeah. I was like, oh, cool. And then I, kept training. The second one, I went out like hard. I mean, I was in a pile at the bottom of the pool, and like I woke up back on land, and I thought I was back at home with my wife. And then I woke up and I was like on the side of the pool, and there was people yelling.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what the heck? This is not fun. They're like, do you want to quit? And I was like,
wow.
In my head, I'm like, yeah, I want to quit. I was unconscious at the bottom of the pool. What do you think?
Yes.
But I was like, no. And they're like, all right, get back in line. I was like, fine. So,
oh my God. So you have a rational fear, and mine is completely irrational. Like,
so
yeah,
if you want to,
crazy.
Yeah, if you want to read about that story, and more stories like that, it's included in my newest book, Ultra-OCR Man, from Special Forces Soldier to Record-Setting Obstacle Course Racer. 100% of the profits of the hard copy sales go to the charity Folds of Honor. So it's about a 260-page or so autobiographical book. Covers my 44 months of combat deployments, and then also all these crazy Ultra-OCR things I've done. So OCR America, and the OCR Grand Slam, and Endure the Gauntlet, and OCR Mill. So pretty cool. I think it's
that's awesome.
Part training book, part application. So, by telling the stories of all these events I've done, I take some of the lessons that I tried to teach people in the Ultra OCR Bible and actually put real world examples to them. And then it's also I think it's just a good story, right? I mean, got some more stories in there, and things like finding mass graves, and we helped recover King Piper's car.
Whoa.
The 1930s Rolls Royce in Iraq in 2007 or 2008. So that story's in there. And I was in Samarra for the when Al Qaeda blew up the Golden Mosque. So February 22nd, 2006, almost sent like the country into war. So I got some pretty good historically relevant stories in there.
That's pretty neat.
As well as all the Ultra OCR and some other OCR stuff in there. So I think it's a good book. I think anyone who enjoys military stories, anyone who enjoys endurance stories, anyone who's involved in OCR, even people not involved in OCR, just wants an interesting story, will enjoy picking up a copy. So yeah, You can head over to teamstrengthspeed.com.
That's awesome.
Pick that up. And before we go, any final shout outs you want to give? Start off with Lisa. Friends, family, sponsors, whatever.
No, just thank you to everybody who's supported me the last 6 months. So I just want to say thank you, and everybody that's like commented on pictures and things, that just gives me support. It helps. So thank you.
Good stuff. Doug, what do you got?
I'll give a shout out. Yeah, I'll give a shout out to my dad. I was talking to a friend earlier tonight, and I kind of realized my dad just raised me when I was real young to be active and seek adventure, and not be afraid of stuff outdoors, and explore everything, ask questions, push boundaries, and that has carried me a long way in life and helps me enjoy what I do now with just a passion that I don't think you can just teach someone. So thanks, Dad.
That's a good one. And if you know me, or you've been come with any of these ultra OCRs, my dad plays a large part in my life too. So I think
Oh yeah.
There's been a lot of studies that say, absent fathers, it causes obviously, second, third order problems later down the line. So, I think if you grow up in a well-run, balanced household, I think sometimes you don't realize how lucky or how beneficial you are. So, yeah, just my 2 cents.
Definitely.
So, all right, we're gonna get going. We will see you all, or some of us will see you in CTG, Iowa. I will be at Toughest Mudder, Minneapolis that weekend, and Lisa will be at both, helping people.
Yes,
I'll
Doug and I will be at both.
Oh, you're going to be at both too? Oh, great. This is going to be great.
He's going to be at both too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lisa, give a shout out.
Yeah.
Lisa, give a shout out to who you're pitting for.
I'll be pitting for Andy Hardy. Yeah, so I'm super excited for her. So, and it'll be the first time that I'm crewing for somebody. So hopefully you don't see us screaming at each other, because, she's one of my best friends, but she's pretty intense too. So I'm super excited to be there for her.
Awesome. Doug, you going to help out Andy too, or are you going to help out someone else?
Yeah. No, I'll be helping Andy with Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I think Corinne is going to be there, coming from California. So the two of us will help the two of them. So
I'm excited. I've never been a crew member like that either.
We'll have to pick a tent spot next to each other. With the Toughest Mudder series, since they expanded it to 12 hours, they now do actual tents. It's not just like a space on a table. So it's got that little more of that world's toughest feel.
Good. Very good.
I think you'll enjoy it. Last time they had like a fire pit going for the pit crew, and they had movies playing and music.
Yes.
The only thing they were missing is during the 8-hour, they had an MC who would like call people's names out as they crossed the finish line and kind of get the crowd more engaged. He was missing at the last Toughest Mudder East in Philly. So hopefully they bring that back for Toughest Mudder Midwest, or whatever it's called, in Minneapolis. All right, we're going to get going.
Minneapolis, yeah.
Thanks. I will see you all in a couple weeks. Later.
All right.
Sounds good.
Bye, everyone.